The hardest truth about growth: sometimes you are the one who needs to change. There's a kind of self awareness that hurts more than criticism. The moment you realize you were not entirely the victim. Not always, not in every story, but in some of them, you were part of the problem. We live in a time where it is easy to explain ourselves and difficult to examine ourselves. We learn the language of healing. That's my trauma. That's my boundary. That's just how I protect myself. And sometimes those words are true, but sometimes we use them as beautiful curtains to hide behaviors we don't want to confront. Maybe you became defensive whenever someone criticized you. Maybe you punished people with silence instead of telling them you were hurt. Maybe you demanded honesty while hiding your own feelings. Maybe you expected people to understand your pain while making little effort to understand theirs. And perhaps you had reasons, you probably did. But having a reason does not make every reaction right. Psychology teaches us that old experiences can shape the way we interpret the present. A person who was betrayed may become suspicious. Someone who was abandoned may become controlling. Someone who grew up unheard may become desperate to be understood. The past can explain the pattern, but it cannot absolve us from what we do with it. Your wound is not your fault. What you choose to do with that wound eventually becomes your responsibility. And that is where real growth begins. Not when you ask, "Who hurt me?" but when you finally become brave enough to ask, "Who am I becoming because of it?" Because pain can turn into wisdom, but it can also turn into cruelty. Fear can teach you caution, or it can teach you control. Rejection can teach you self-respect, or it can teach you to reject everyone first. You don't always get to choose what happened to you, but you do have some say in what happens next. And admitting that is not self-hatred, it is freedom. Because if everyone else is responsible for the person you've become, then you are powerless to change. But the moment you can say, "I was wrong, I hurt someone, I handled that badly, I need to change," you have something far more valuable than innocence. You have agency. And perhaps we need a more mature kind of self-love, one that doesn't whisper, "You are perfect exactly as you are," but instead says, "You are worthy of love and still capable of doing better." You can be a good person with unhealthy habits. You can be deeply wounded and still wound someone else. You can have good intentions and still cause harm. None of this makes you irredeemable. It makes you human. So don't spend your life building a perfect defense of your own innocence. Look inward. Find the places where your fear speaks louder than your wisdom. Apologize where you need to. Change where you can. And forgive yourself not by pretending you did nothing wrong, but by becoming someone who no longer needs to make the same mistake. Because sometimes the person you need to heal from is also the person you need to heal within yourself.